welcome back to Otaku no Video. As always, thank you very much for joining me for my review of Occult Academy, a 13-episode anime series that premiered this summer of 2010. Now, Occult Academy is part of the Untitled Chapter project, which is a collaboration between TV Tokyo and Aniplex to make anime series that are not based on an existing manga or light novel. So this has a completely original story. It is basically a gothic comedy. So there's supernatural investigation and occult stuff, which can be quite scary at times and legitimately, intentionally scary, alternated with comedy sequences and some action. There are two main characters, Maya and Bunmei. Maya is this teenage girl who's taking over her father's Occult Academy, a school for investigation of the occult and the paranormal. And then Bunmei is a loser who's sent back in time to prevent an apocalyptic rift in space-time that causes basically everything to fall apart. The problem is that Maya doesn't really trust him. So there's lots of back and forth between those two characters. And he is this wimp. So there's that going on too. The one really nice thing about this Anime no Chikara project is that they clearly get really good budgets for their series. Sora no Woto and Seiko no Night Raid were previous anime in that project. So clearly they've got the budget to do really high quality animation sequences and done by animators who really know how to draw that effectively and really make it exciting in the frame. So no problems there. And even the rest of the anime really has effective drawing and effective animations. Characters will be talking, and it's not just a head with lips moving all the time. There'll be movement and characters moving around and so forth. So that's really good. And the direction overall is, I honestly think, in movie quality. There's a lot of attention paid to exactly what the camera angle is going to be, what's shown on frame, what's not shown on frame, how characters are in relation to each other. Really, really impressive there. And the editing, wow. Shots are held for exactly the right amount of time. You have short shots to really increase tension, which is expensive, and long shots to really let you sink in, let something that happened really sink in. And it's just top-notch stuff there. Now, the characters and their relationships are a bit uneven. Because there's so much comedy in the anime, there's not too much time spent for character development. This is really my big problem with the series, is that most of the anime, and it's only 13 episodes, are disconnected side stories. Something weird happens and the characters go to investigate. Now, there's a reason why they're doing that in relation to the A-plot, but it's mostly B-plot side stories. And unfortunately, as a result, there's very little character development. Moreover, because of the comedy, for example, there is a goofy antagonist throughout most of the series, and we kind of write her off for most of the series. At the end, there's a twist and she becomes a serious character. The problem is, I spent so much time writing her off that I really couldn't buy into her as a serious character anymore. There just, wasn't enough there for me to be invested in that character. And that's a problem with a lot of the anime, is that there's so much comedy and there's so much of this side story investigation stuff that when you come to the big ending and the big A-plot, I didn't have much invested in a lot of the characters there. So that was a bit of a problem. So this blending of genres of sort of the comedy and the supernatural scary stuff, it can work very well. And I'm not suggesting they shouldn't have done that, but unfortunately in this case it didn't quite mesh very strongly. It just didn't quite work out. Now, that leads to another little issue about the believability of this, and this, I think, is more of a cultural thing. The people living around the Occult Academy kind of write off all of the weird stuff that happens around it as, oh, it's just that weird Occult Academy. I had a difficult time buying that, and I think that's more a Japanese thing, where they're kind of more accepting of supernatural events. But it just felt to me like the folks around that would be a little more weirded out by that kind of thing, and wouldn't just, that's kind of their reaction is, oh, it's just the Occult Academy, whatever. Seemed kind of strange. The voice acting also, I do have to point out, for the main characters, perfectly workable, no problems there, good job there. The minor characters are everywhere from mediocre to poor, frankly. And this is the Japanese dub. There are characters, there's one in particular who has this really emotionally distraught character, and there's not much emotion to the character's voice. It's pretty mediocre. And the rest of the characters are often, the actors will stick to the sort of 2 or 3 word description of their character. This is supposed to be a happy girl. So everything is filtered through that kind of happy girl character. And so you don't get much emotional range out of a lot of the other characters, which unfortunately just, the show works, but that was a little disappointing that the voice acting is kind of work a day. It's fine. That said, I do want to mention, actually, before I move on, the music. The music is gorgeous, and it always supports what's going on. And for a series that hits so many different emotional highs and lows, that's extremely impressive. I was blown away by how well the music works with the anime. And speaking of emotion, I don't want to make you think with all of this negative stuff that I didn't like Occult Academy. There were moments in this where I just cried. Several of them. And other moments where if I wasn't crying, I was completely emotionally invested in what was going on in this anime. There was stuff happening and I was riveted. I thoroughly enjoyed Occult Academy and was invested in the characters a lot of the time. Not all the time, and like I said, there's some issues. But it really, there are a lot of sequences in here which work extremely well. And when, if I were to make a supernatural story, I would use Occult Academy as an example of how to do that really effectively in certain scenes, in certain sequences, in certain episodes. So, Bully, for them, it just doesn't quite mesh together at the end. It's one of those problems where there's lots of different stuff to juggle, and in this case, didn't quite come together. So, unfortunate. But again, I was hooked in, and I was definitely watching it all the way through to the end. So those are my thoughts on Occult Academy. If you've watched it and want to talk about it, or haven't and want to talk about anime and manga in general, please stop by otakunovideo.net or shoot me an email, brent@otakunovideo.net. We'd love to talk with you more about this anime and interesting anime and manga in general. So until next time, please enjoy, and may you find more anime to scare and intrigue you.